All right, I think we're just going to get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Sharon Song, one of the co-chairs of the NASIG Continuing Education Committee. Also with me today is my CEC colleague, Beverly Gecko, who will help with chat. I'm so glad you could join us today. First of all, a big thank you to the NASIG Digital Preservation Committee for sponsoring, excuse me. Sorry about that. For sponsoring today's webinar, Digital Preservation Resources and Tools. Before we dive in, I have just a few quick announcements from the CEC. After webinar, you will receive a link to share to a short evaluation form, along with access to the recording and slides. I'm also dropping a few links in chat where you can explore past webinar recordings on NASIG website. Lots of great content there if you'd like to catch up on earlier sessions. If you have questions, please drop them in chat and our speakers will address them in the end. So, and don't forget to mark your calendar for our next webinar, Asking for More, What Works in Academic Library Acquisition Negotiations, coming up on December 11th. And now let's get started. I'm delighted to hand things over to my NASIG colleague, Ella Hitchcock. Here you go, Ella.
Thank you, Yen. Good morning and good afternoon or good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Ella Hitchcock. I'm one of the co-chairs of the NASIG Digital Preservation Committee, and thank you for joining us. I'm very happy to introduce our two speakers this morning. Anna Perricci and Alicia Wise. So the structure of this webinar is that Alicia Wise, who is a member of our committee, will be introducing some NASIG resources. And Alicia is the executive director of CLOCKS, a collaborative, community-owned open infrastructure to ensure long-term preservation of the scholarly record. And then after Alicia has presented, Anna, who is the head of the DPC Americas at the Digital Preservation Coalition, which is a organization that supports community advocacy, workforce development, good practice, and good governance in digital preservation, will be presenting on DPC or Digital Preservation Coalition resources and tools. And of course, after that, we will have questions. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please add them in the Q&A section of the Zoom meeting. So with that, let's get started. Alicia?
Thank you very much indeed, Ella, and it's lovely to be here with you all. Let me call up a few PowerPoint slides, beautifully designed by the very talented Benny Wickham, who is Ella's co-chair of the committee. And Benny, this is just the gift that keeps giving these beautiful slides. So here we go. First thing I'd like to say is that I'm presenting the work of an enormous number of other people tonight, and it's an honor to be entrusted with that task. The current active participants on the NASIG Digital Preservation Committee are outlined on the slide before you, and there are a few of us on the call tonight. Ella and Abeni are here, and I think I also saw Wendy Robertson and Julie Shee in the participant list. Maybe some other people have joined since. So hello, fellow Digital Preservation Committee members. There have also been preceding generations of the NASIG Digital Preservation Committee. So the work you're going to see presented at a high-level overview tonight has been the work of numerous pairs of hands over the years. Let me rave for just a minute about how remarkable the NASIG Digital Preservation Committee is. And I have a secret agenda here, which is to try to encourage anyone watching this webinar to come forward and volunteer to get active with this group. You'd be really, really welcome. The committee is indeed remarkable. It's library-led, but it also includes publishers, both library publishers and other sorts of publishers. So it's influential as well. It's successfully operated. It has a really strong rotation of talented people, many of whom come in and start working and know very little about digital preservation or have no formal responsibility for it. And they climb an elegant learning curve and are experts when they pop out the other side. It's a terrific opportunity if you're an early career librarian or researcher or publisher, anybody, to actively serve the community and to get national and international experience as well. So really cannot speak highly enough of it. So do please think about coming forward to volunteer. Now, what does the NASIG Digital Preservation Committee do? Well, the most tangible form of outputs you can find on the NASIG website. All of these are completely free, openly available. And I'm going to be introducing these publications tonight. They've all been refreshed in the last year, which has been a nice heavy lift, I'm sure, for active current members. But there's something else the Digital Preservation Committee does, and that's stay abreast of all the changes in the world of digital preservation to distill down what's important and meaningful to share with other librarians. And they're really proactive about building connections with other organizations working in this space. And thus, it is a delight to be co-presenting tonight with Anna from the Digital Preservation Coalition. Links between NASIG and the DPC, they're obvious. There's a strength, there's a match made in heaven there. Okay, so let's start talking about the NASIG publications and guides. Where to start? It's with this, Digital Preservation 101. Whether you are at the beginning of your digital preservation journey or whether you've been on one for a while and you just need to just take a step back and think, am I current, up to date? Have I got the basics square in my mind? This is a great guide. It's really well written. It's very approachable. I think, my personal view is that it's particularly helpful if you're in an academic library setting and you have responsibility for acquisitions or collections, any kind of responsibility for acquisitions or collections, this is a really good guide for you. It's a great place to start. It'll help you understand quickly and in a way that you can help others understand the difference between digital preservation and a backup copy or cloud storage. It'll give you an overview of different service providers that operate in library land. So if you've heard of a Portico or a Clocks or an Internet Archive and you're not quite sure what they're doing at the moment, gives you a good potted overview. And most importantly, it gives you some really basic first strong steps about how to get started on digital preservation in your library work. Absolutely tremendous starting place. The next resource to go on to, and this is quite an opus, this took years to craft, and it's a heavy lift to keep up to date, and it's totally worth it, is the NASIG Model Digital Preservation Policy. Now, I've got the table of contents here. I should make clear that the executive summary and how to use this document is about the model policy, and the rest of it, from the introduction to the glossary, those are actually resources that you can cut and paste and learn from and reuse in building your own digital preservation policy in your library service. This is a particularly helpful resource if you have a library publisher in your organization. Perhaps you are a library publisher. If so, this is the key resource anywhere in the world to get started in crafting a preservation policy. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Honestly, this is the most useful resource. Let's think about the roles and responsibilities section, for example. If you were crafting a digital preservation policy and you were a library publisher, you would need to think about the roles and responsibilities of other people in your organization, your information and technology support colleagues, any preservation experts in your library, metadata coordinators, repository managers, library acquisitions and subject specialists, copyright and licensing experts. All of these people with their special skill sets play a role in successful digital preservation. So please do check this model policy out. If you're tasked with thinking about what you want to preserve and how to go about it, a policy is the right starting point, and this will get you 60% of the way there before you're even out of the gate. So what does a preservation policy do? It's a living document, and it gets you to think about why you're doing what you're doing, what it is you want to preserve, for whom and when. And then it enables you to have a document where you collect those decisions that you make and the commitments you're making. Because key to successful digital preservation are deliberate choices and active, proactive management over time. So the decisions in the early days about what your policy is need to be documented so people who come later to implement it will understand why they're doing what they're doing. The rationale behind preservation choices are absolutely fundamental to making the effort worth it. You can use the model policy just for a read to understand the breadth and depth of such a beast, or you can use it in a very tangible way as a first draft to cut and paste and select from. It includes sample text drawn from actual library preservation policies in different parts of the world. It's got links to those so you can see them in the round for yourself, and it's got lots of additional resources that you might choose if you need to dive in deeper detail. So they're guidelines and tools to help you construct your own policy. It's not a set of bossy little rules about what you must do or mustn't do. It's really, it's like a friend. It's encouraging and enabling. It's rather splendid. I'm a fan. It will guide you in how to have constructive conversations in your organization. And my goodness, the pesky questions you need to consider. Ella, I think this might have been your slide, and I've nicked it because it's so good. But really thinking about who it is you're trying to convince that your library service needs a policy or your library publishing activity needs a policy. What's the scope? What are you going to preserve? More importantly, what are you not going to preserve? Cannot boil the ocean, cannot preserve everything. So those decisions are fundamentally important. What are you going to do in-house yourselves? What are you going to work in collaboration with other libraries, other publishers, other consortia? What are you going to trust to partner organizations? Where are you going to buy commercial services? Where are you going to want the community in control and running the show? How much is it feasible for you to do? And where are the sources of support if you need help? And basically identifying the partner's skills and resources to keep you implementing your policy in a manageable, successful way over the long term. Okay, next let's move on to the NASIG talking points and questions to ask publishers about digital preservation. This one's fun. So if the last policy document, the model policy, could really be a guide for your library publishing activities, this guide is terrific when you're talking to publishers that you either license content from into your library service or that you have agreements with to publish open access. And it boils down to some really critical questions. If I publish with you, if my researchers publish with you, or if they cite this work, what will a future reader see? What happens in 150 years when you've gone out of business or you've sold this title? What is preserved for the long term? And how does that differ from what a user experiences now? And how might the answer to that question change over time? So there's a lot more to having a successful strategic conversation with a publisher. This guide will help you get there. It will help you prepare. It'll show you how you get some nice desk research going in advance of that conversation. So you're on the front foot knowing a little bit about what the other publishers are already doing in the space. The Keepers Registry is one of the most incredible tools, I think, internationally for digital preservation. And NASIG has a great guide to the Keepers Registry. What is it? It's an online database run by the ISSN International Agency that lets you look up a journal title and find out where it's being preserved, if at all. And the Keepers Registry collects holdings data about what's being preserved in archives, including those that you see on the screen before you. And they add 3 or 4 new archives each year. So it's a growing resource. It's tremendous. You can look up a particular title that might be relevant for your collection, and you can find out, is it preserved in one place? That's good. 2 places, better. 3 places, now we're cooking with gas. That is the international standard. More, great. But too often, and the figure is 25% of journals published worldwide are preserved nowhere that we have evidence for, that none of the Keepers Registry organizations report preservation. And that's where an army of librarians influencing publishing practice is absolutely mighty. It's really, really needed if we're to collect and preserve the scholarly record for future generations. So let me stop there. We'll have questions after Anna's terrific presentation, but let me just reiterate that call for volunteers. This is a great committee to get active with. You'd be really welcome. Both Ella and Abeni are really approachable, so they're the best first point of call. I'm always happy to chat to if you want to, but do think about coming and joining us and joining in the fun, whether or not you're a digital preservation novice or expert. And with that, over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was really helpful, and I learned things about the NASIG work as well, because I am coming from the DPC and happy to associate with NASIG, but am not yet a member of this group in full capacity. And thank you, Alicia, for allowing me to share, because now this is now should be able to see my slides. I apologize for the formatting. With PowerPoint, half my images disappeared earlier this afternoon, so I just was in a rush to replace them, and now this is a PDF. So file fixity 101 will be skipped, but here we have our PDF. I'm also going to turn off my camera. Let me see. Hide video panel. You know what? I don't know if I can, but we'll hide that anyway. So what is digital preservation? This was already covered by Alicia, but I like to start a presentation with this. It's a definition from the Digital Preservation Handbook, but digital preservation is the series of managed activities necessary to ensure continued access to digital materials for as long as necessary. So not necessarily everything and not necessarily everything forever. So what else from the DPC could be helpful in forming a digital preservation policy? So we have a digital preservation policy toolkit. It also helps to hone your expertise and learn new skills. So you can do that via Novice to Know-How. We have a course on digital preservation, but we have other short courses as well, including one on making a digital asset register. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also maintain the Digital Preservation Handbook. Updates coming soon, especially in 2026. We'll be doing book sprints internally, and then we'll, of course, be getting feedback from the community. Another thing you can do to help your policy and just help yourself as a professional is keep up to date on current and emerging practice. So ways you can do that are joining the conversation for DP Connect. You can attend training offered by the DPC. Some of them are open and some of them are for members only. And then for DPC members only, you can learn and workshop your ideas in special interest groups. If we have time, and I think we might, I'll go to a bonus round, which is maturity modeling with DPC RAM, the rapid assessment model, and a follow along activity you can do called CAT, which is the competency assessment toolkit. So first of all, the Digital Preservation Policy Toolkit. This is can be a complementary guide to what NASIG has created. I just put a little side by side. As Alicia said, the table of contents, you know, there's introductory material as well as the sections that you should expect to have in your policy. We have a similar thing. There are a few differences, but scope, principles, you know, so on. Glossary is also very helpful, though optional. We really think that there's a lot of room for both of these. The examples in the Digital Preservation Coalition's toolkit tend to be based in Europe or especially the UK. And I think that's one strength of NASIG's model is it has a lot of examples from Canada and the US, as well as the UK and the rest of Europe. One thing that's in the toolkit that I think is especially helpful is what makes a good policy and what makes a bad policy. I won't read all of this, but some characteristics of a bad policy, say, is a reliance on jargon, acronyms, and too much detail, which may put off non-specialist readers who may be key stakeholders. A bad policy also covers too much ground and attempts to address other gaps in the policy landscape. And finally, a bad policy is it's considered a finished policy that is final and static. That's not really the way policies for digital preservation work. But a good policy is a document built on credible research and appreciation of context. A good policy is up to date with an appropriate and clearly defined schedule for review, and so on. So I encourage you to take a look at the toolkit. There's also a step-by-step guide to building a digital preservation policy, some of the things that are necessary to do. And, it isn't just draft policy. There are preparatory steps and there are follow-up steps. So that is something to keep in mind with the toolkit. We also have coverage of policy creation and strategies in the Digital Preservation Handbook. I'll talk a little bit more about that later in this presentation, but the DP Handbook has a lot of resources and a great glossary which you can borrow from. I think the NASIG resources do use some definitions from the Digital Preservation Handbook and some from other sources. So I'm looking forward to your questions, and I'm seeing chats pop up, but I'll take a look at them at the end. I'm not sure which presenter they're for, but I'm looking forward to taking a look at them. But you can hone your expertise and learn new skills. This is something the DPC specializes in. As I mentioned, Novice to Know-How, it's an asynchronous self-guided course. It takes about 15 to 20 hours, and it's great for either learning or reinforcing your knowledge of digital preservation. It's a curriculum that was funded by the National Archives in the UK. That's something that the DPC is very grateful for, that sponsorship, because it made it all possible to spend staff time on that. And the digital preservation, core curriculum, it covers selecting and transferring content, preparing content for preservation, managing long-term preservation, and providing access. Access is something that sometimes is considered a nice to have, but really should be considered integral to the program development and how we do our work. So the course has been completed by over 4,000 learners in 62 countries. Our usage in the US is way up this past year, which is something I'm really excited about. Novice to Know-How has been something the DPC Americas program in particular has been really excited to talk about. There are also courses on the same platform on email preservation, as well as digital asset registers. I'll share a little Novice to Know-How feedback. This is from the core course. My favorite comment by far is also the shortest. It's surprisingly not boring. So there is our high praise for Novice to Know-How. So the DPC getlearnworlds.com, that's the main web address landing page. This is the course on digital asset registers and building one. So the learning objectives are really clear. They're listed right here. Explain what after completing the course, learners will be able to do the following. Explain what a digital asset register is. Prepare and plan for building a digital asset register. And then also undertake the basic steps to build, use, and review a digital asset register. And why bother? Oops, I'm so sorry. Getting to know your digital content is extremely important, and you can do this in a digital asset register as well as using a file manifest. And by file manifest, I mean a list of files, essentially. But knowing what you have will help you advocate for resources and build a business case, and it will enable you to plan wisely. You might not be surprised to learn that there's a digital asset register toolkit as well. At the DPC, we have a number of free toolkits, and this is one of them. It's tagged with policy and metadata, but you can, conceivably add other tags as you imagine what you can do with a digital asset register by extension. The Digital Preservation Handbook, I've mentioned just a little bit about its history. It was first composed in 2001, so quite a while ago. The DPC was founded in 2002, so it's almost as old, but Neil Bergerie and Maggie Jones were the initial authors that compiled the information. We're currently using the revised second edition. As I mentioned, revisions and updates are coming soon. Our book sprints internally are starting in 2026. I should also give credit to our sponsors who are pictured here. It's really helpful to have input from the community and resources from the community. One thing that led me to the DPC most recently was using the glossary again and again and again as a consultant. And the glossary, I think, really helps people understand how you can combine two English words and they don't necessarily mean what you think they mean. Sometimes you need a glossary to really come to be on the same page with technical terms in particular. So, keeping up to date on current and emerging practice is another thing you can do that will help your digital preservation policy be more robust. And again, you will be growing as a professional and learning new things. DP Connect is a free coffee chat, essentially. We don't record it, we don't take notes, it's only 30 minutes, but folks can show up and share wins, they can share challenges, they can compare notes on technology they use. It's been really productive so far. We've been doing it in the Americas just since September, but it's been very well attended. It's the first Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, so translate to your time zone as you will, please. There's also a Europe and Africa version at 1400 UTC, so 2 p.m. UTC, which usually comes to be about 9 or 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's on the second Thursday of each month. This is a DPC members only resource or, activity, but I just wanted to make sure you know it exists because I think it can be really helpful and it's a reason to join the DPC if that's of interest to you. But we have special interest groups on audiovisual materials. We have a new one on databases. We have one on digital forensics, another on preservation registries, and the web archiving one is coming soon, returning soon. I'm really excited about that one in particular as being someone with a web archiving background. But we have other folks on the staff, including Andy Jackson, who will be integral to the reintroduction of that special interest group. We also have special interest groups that are geared towards institutional types. So for example, libraries, national libraries and archives, as well as galleries and museums. Alicia has been part of at least one of our task forces, the one on carbon footprint analysis, and we are looking forward to that coming out. And yeah, Alicia, you've chaired it. We can't thank you enough. And for the SIGs and most of the meetings, we rotate between time zones in the Americas, Australasia, and Europe. Sometimes we get lucky and their time zone overlaps. For example, the evening in the Americas is early in the day in Australasia, or late in the day in Europe is early in the day in the Americas. So sometimes we get an international conversation going on these specific topics. Though we also have a member forum. It used to be called an unconference, but we now call it a member forum and open networking events. This happens about once a year in Europe, once a year in the Americas. Now we've done it once, and now we'll do it again in April 2026 in New York City. But it's a skills building opportunity. The open networking events are open to all for community building and expertise cultivation and building. We have a good amount of space for non-members to register in the open networking events. And the member forum the agenda is set by members and it's for members only. We don't invite supporters to be there. It's just the digital preservation community talking about the issues they're facing and how they're addressing problems that are difficult to really get to the bottom of sometimes. And also in the Americas, especially, there's a hybrid option for members only. Last year, our conference in Nashville had almost every single representative from almost every single institution in the Americas. So we were really excited about how well attended it was virtually, as well as having a nice group in person. Another thing that DPC offers are we offer TechWatch reports and guidance notes. Those are free to all. Two that might be of special interest to this audience is A Risk-Driven Approach to Bitstream Preservation, which is written by Paul Wheatley, who was our head of good practice and is now an independent consultant. We also have a publication on choosing a persistent identifier type for your digital objects. So that was written by Remco van Vindal. I hope I pronounced his name properly, but from the National Archives of the Netherlands. So we have webinars, some are open and some are for members only. Webinars for DPC members, they can be attended live or watch recordings. If you're not a DPC member, you can often buy a spot in specific webinars, but we really do offer a lot of open webinars that are helpful to the community at large, our members, as well as people beyond our membership. We have DP clinics. The DP Connect sessions often give us good ideas for DP clinics. When we hear what people are struggling with or talking about, it gives us a chance to respond to that in the form of a webinar, and topics that are chosen, based on those discussions. We also have some special open event series. The community-owned workflow series, there were 7 of them. It was packed with content. The videos are freely available to all. A new internal goalpost was established as Michael level numbers, because Michael Popham organized these sessions, and they were so well attended. So bonus round, I'm going to assume we have enough time for this. It's not super long, but can I just get a quick yes or no on this one?
I think we have the time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So having a deeper understanding of your program is, again, helpful for your policy and your program as a whole. So you can do maturity modeling with the Rapid Assessment Model, RAM, and also use the Competency Assessment Toolkit, which is called CAT. We like animal names here at the DPC. So RAM helps you understand where you are. It's a lightweight benchmarking tool. It helps you set goals for the future as well as understand where you are now. There's a continuous improvement approach that we recommend, but it's a way to plan incrementally and set your development goals as achievable targets. Also, at the DPC, we advocate for good practice, not best practices. Best practices may seem intimidating, but good practice is good enough and just the best we can do sometimes. So really not overstating it and saying good practice is part of how we approach things at the DPC. So what does RAM look like? There's a score that you assign yourself, and RAM is intended to take a few hours to complete, not a few days or a few months. It's not a certification. It's really a tool to help you understand where you are. You can assign a 0 for minimal awareness, a 1 for an awareness, 2 for basic coverage, 3 for something being managed, and 4 for being something optimized. You're not always going for a 4. You don't need a 4 necessarily. Sometimes having a basic or managed approach is just fine for the characteristic you have here under organizational capabilities or service capabilities. So I encourage you to take a look at the rapid assessment model, and you can think about organizational viability, which can impact how you develop and revise your policy, as we've been talking about, assessing policy strategies and procedures which govern the operation and management of the digital archive. That's B. So this all goes together fairly cleanly. I have an assertion to make, and so much that I accidentally repeated the slide, but it is nothing works without skilled staff. So that is why DPC offers so many assets and resources to the community. It's necessary for any successful digital preservation program. We all on this line know that digital preservation is a multidisciplinary undertaking. Skills are essential, and what skills might be needed to add or further develop your team? Those are good questions, and those are questions that you can start to unpack with CAT, the Competency Assessment Toolkit. CAT is a good follow-on from RAM. It gives you a way of looking at specific skills and breaking them down into competencies that you can take a closer look at. So that is something also to keep in mind. Here are the links to RAM and CAT. As Ella mentioned, these slides will be available. I'll just wrap up by encouraging you to consider DPC as a partner and friend in your digital preservation journey as you do this work. This is a list of things we offer. I don't necessarily need to read it because this isn't a sales pitch for DPC, but we just want to encourage you to come to us if you have questions, to come to the events. And thank you very much for your time and attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna and Alicia. Sorry, it's a little bit of coughing. So we have about 20 minutes for questions, and it doesn't look like there are any questions in the Q&A or in the chat at this time. So yeah, let's just open up the floor.
Alicia, I see your chat, which I appreciate a lot. You wrote, I agree that the DPC and NASIG model policies are complementary. I almost renamed my presentation complementary and complementary. They are both free and they complement one another. It reminds me of a friend's favorite joke about complimentary nuts that say nice shoes, nice shirt, but they're at the bar, they're free. So it's I'm not telling the joke very well, but just complimentary and complementary are two ways, just a letter different, but same, the same in terms of how this works. And
Anna, while you've got the mic, can I be cheeky and ask you a question? Could you please say a little something about the bit list? Because this is something else the DPC does. And I think it's actually it's fascinating for people who are coming to digital preservation afresh or who are familiar with one kind of resource that might need to be preserved in digital format and don't necessarily come into contact with the rest of that ecosystem.
Oh my goodness, I wish I could just pass this question right back to you as one of our star stakeholders. But let me pull up the website because I think it's a good way to go through the content. So I'm just going to share this.
It's like an endangered species list for digital content. Fascinating. It really is cool.
Yeah,
Scary as well.
It is. And so this is the dpconline.org and the DigiPres section, and this is championing digital preservation and the bit list. So it's essentially an endangered species list for digital preservation assets. And so let's explore the bit list, or we can download the full report. But Alicia, what do you think would be the best way to go through this?
I think if you click on, oh, now the website's different than when I last looked at it. There used to be a way to get to go to the full report. Just find any kind of material, like audiovisual material or something like that.
Let's look at this. Yeah, so here
I could spend hours on this resource. It's fascinating.
let's see, we're about halfway at wow.
Just pick one randomly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so we're gonna word search for so this is talking about FFmpeg. Let's do
Or if you scroll down to virtual reality, it's just literally halfway down the next page there. Or media art by deceased artists or defunct workshops. Basically, this is an encyclopedia of digital information, and it gives you a kind of overview about how endangered that kind of digital material is. Is it being preserved? Are we doing a reasonably good job as a species in preserving that kind of material internationally? Or are we at risk of the digital dark ages because that resource is at extreme risk of just disappearing forever? It's a wonderful place to start to begin thinking about where you can add value in preservation activities by identifying gaps in practice. It is incredibly fascinating and terrifying. Sorry, Anna, I'm just so excited about it.
I do not want you to apologize at all, because this is a great thing to bring up. And yeah, it's something that we try to, update annually so it stays up to date. But yeah, it's, you have your different characterizations of critically endangered and endangered, and sometimes you have things that are in decent shape. Um, so vulnerable. So yeah. I think I saw a question in the chat. What was
Yeah. We had a question from Wendy Robertson. So for someone who is more adjacent to digital preservation work, like work with institutional repositories or library publishing, but not a digital preservation librarian, what are the most relevant DPC resources? And I think that can refer to both NASIG DPC and the Digital Preservation Coalition.
Yeah, so I'll say one or two things and then hand it back to Alicia, because I know you have good things to share. So what I would do in that role is think about novice to know-how and use it as a way to learn more about digital preservation in general. There are a lot of institutions that use that as a core training material to cross-train throughout different departments. So for digital preservation, go to So here, novice to know-how training. So this tells you a bit more about it, and then you can sign up for it. But this would be something that I encourage everyone to do, and that is one thing that you could keep in mind and explore courses. So this one, the digital preservation for beginners. So it's 38 modules. It also gives you a chance to play with some of the tools and show that it's not that hard. Another thing you could do in that role, let's see, go to digital preservation. And there are technology watch publications that might be especially relevant to you. So there is one that's a little older, but probably still really helpful. It's one that, where is it? This one, preserving ebooks. So there's more work going on preserving ebooks very soon, but even an older report sometimes can help you familiarize yourself with where things have been and increase fluency in an area that might be really useful to you. Let's see, for institutional repository and adjacent, what else? Digital preservation handbook can be really useful, because sometimes you don't need to know everything about everything, but you want to go and look at technical solutions and tools. And the assumed level of knowledge is novice to intermediate. So you can download a full PDF of that section, or you can kind of dig in, say, on file formats and standards, and really kind of do a surface dive on what components make up this topic. Let's see, what else? I think the glossary is really helpful, as I said before, because it also can give you vocabulary and give you new places to add to your search terms, and also communicate with folks in other areas of the library or archive or other communities in which you serve. Alicia, I'll pass it back to you for this one.
Yeah, I think this is where the resources are really complementary. And I would say, Wendy, that for the roles that you mentioned, an institutional repository manager or somebody in library publishing or somebody in acquisitions or collections, for me, this is where the NASIG guides are a really good starting point, because they're tailored and they're written for that specific audience, those sort of specific roles. And then they have links outward into DPC resources, into things from the Library of Congress, into things from NDSA. And that's something that the NASIG committee members are kind of mindful of. looking at all of that terrific material that's out there and selecting what's kind of a helpful starting point or most relevant. And I think the committee members do that well. I've learned a lot actually about how to tailor preservation material for specific audiences while listening to the NASIG committee work. And that might actually be a shared objective for the NASIG committee and DPC to work together to just sense check whether all of the relevant DPC resources are linked to and have been identified. And maybe there's some opportunities for working together to refresh things, like that books preservation resource, for example. Is there a journals preservation resource? So this feels like a good place with complementary efforts and initiatives and vision, but the NASIG community is really embedded with those particular role types.
Okay. So we have another question from Benny for both Anna and Alicia. So what advice would you give to content creators such as researchers, lecturers, new scholars, who may expect that if their content is posted on a website or within a platform service, that it would be there forever, which unfortunately is not true?
I have some things that I tend to say, but Alicia, do you have anything you want to start off with?
I've got 3 resources. So I think the NASIG guide to how to talk to publishers is really helpful here to really find out if you are submitting a journal article to be published, what will happen to it. The second thing, there's a brilliant piece of research that NYU, New York University, has done. Clocks and Portico have been members of the team, but NYU led it on preserving new forms of open scholarship, which look at particularly open books online that are really dynamic, that are perhaps presented through the web, that are really resource rich. And there's a lot of helpful advice in that resource. I'll find the link in a minute about what to think about if you are a new university or library press publishing books, because there are lots of things that you could decide to do that might make your book not preservable at all. And this guide can help you avoid some of those common pitfalls. And then the third thing, it's gone right out of my head. So I'm going to turn over to Anna, find that link, and maybe the third thing will come back, or maybe not.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned the preservability guide. I know it's kind of a clunky word, but that there's a questionnaire that you can use to go through different parts of a complex digital book that would be, harder. I mean, for me, I often have to circle back and say, you just help people understand that maintenance is essential to keep anything online. And you can show people examples of, what certain web resources look like in the Internet Archive. It's often not impressive because images will be missing, video or audio might not render. And the harder or the more complex the initial resource is, the harder it can be to preserve it. Stanford University Press did some really great work as well, and you can show someone, the publications as well as the archival versions, and that really might be a little sobering in terms of seeing and helping them understand just how much work it is to make a functional copy of a complex publication. I also think that one thing that people don't totally understand is remote content and how when you embed a YouTube video, it's not necessarily there forever, and it's contingent on YouTube both maintaining the video there and the link continuing to work. So sometimes you can show people that or like help them understand just how fragile web content is and web content that people rely on is. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
That was helpful. And I remembered point 3, which is that when you're talking to content creators, it can sometimes be really powerful to encourage them to connect efforts that they make to make their publication or their work more accessible for people with disabilities, and those same efforts are almost always going to make the works more preservable as well. So tying together the terrific work to make your work accessible both to everyone now and for future generations can be a really powerful, positive, inspiring way to motivate content creators to take preservation more seriously.
And I just like to add, even on a base level, in addition to all of that, reiterating that lots of copies keep stuff safe. So even just having your own copy of something in like something like a PDF or a very basic format can be a great small step that content creators and researchers can take as well. Okay, thank you both. So we do have another 5-10 minutes. Any other questions?
Alicia, would you like to talk about the carbon footprint toolkit that you've been so involved with working on with the task force?
I'm happy to say something, but I'm not sure it's so relevant for this audience. But just so
True, it's
people are
true. I was
aware.
just filling the time. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
but people might want to be released back into the wild to swim in beautiful oceans or have a
True.
cup of tea or whatever it is time appropriate where you are. Anyway, the work in DPC that's happening is for digital archives to figure out how to begin assessing their environmental footprint by particularly looking at energy consumption in all of its forms in order to calculate the carbon footprint of digital archiving. And what I would really like to know, maybe somebody on this call knows, we're looking for comparators, any projects or research that's been done on physical archives. If anybody is aware of anything like that, I would be fascinated to kind of begin to be able to compare and contrast. So drop me a little note if you know of anything.
Thank you, Alicia. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, that's okay. I don't want to bore people. Unlike your guide, I can get boring when I start talking about carbon footprinting.
Oh, I don't know. I'm fascinated by what you have to say about it. So Ella, do you have any other thoughts or questions that you might raise or things you hoped we might do in this webinar?
No, I think we've done a pretty comprehensive coverage of the resources available for both services. Yeah, not sure if I have much else to say. Yan, would you like to close us out with more CEC information?
Yes, just let me pull out my closing slide. Right, what a great session packed with a lot of wonderful resources. I want to thank our presenters, Alicia and Anna and Ella as well, for sharing such wonderful resources on digital preservations. And of course, we also want to thank all of you for spending a part of your day with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please take a minute to complete the evaluation form when you receive it, and your feedback really helps us shape our future programs. And don't forget our next webinar, asking for more what works in academic library acquisition negotiation, is coming up on December 11th. So keep an eye out for the registration announcement from NASIG soon. And thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.